Welcome to Cannon Fodder, a behind-the-scenes look at the Glass Cannon Network.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen of the nation? Welcome back to Cannon Fodder Friday, a special Cannon Fodder Friday on this July 9th, 2021. I welcome an entire cast of wonderful people to the show as we do this special edition Get in the Trunk Season 2 Debrief. We are going to be breaking down everything that went on behind the scenes of our second season of Delta Green. We had a fantastic time, and I've got almost the entire cast with me here today. Here joining me is Grant Berger.
Yeah!
Come on, Grant.
Yeah. By the way, I call
Sydney
my
Emmanuel. Grant, shut up.
It's my turn. Yeah, Sydney!
What's up? Troy is in the house.
Whoa, I'm raising the roof.
And the Skid.
Yeah, take off your shirt.
Woo-hoo-hoo. Skid is trying to take off his shirt actively right now.
I can't do it anymore.
I'm so excited everybody is here to join me today to break down Delta Green. It is something that I look forward to now since we did it in season 1. I had such a great time, and most of you know, anybody out there that runs Delta Green knows it is always wild where the players take stories as opposed to where you think it might go and how the operations are laid out. And so that's what we're here for today, is to talk all about what if we went right instead of going left, what was part of the written operation, what was made up, all that kind of stuff, and get a sense of what's really going on behind the scenes here, so that not only do we know a little bit more than the characters knew, but we can learn a little bit about the world of Delta Green before we head into season 3, which has been announced with Grant as handler. Very excited about that. And we'll see if we get any teases on that. Not promising anything, but we'll right now we're going to focus mainly on season 2. But first, a little bit of news. We got some big shows next week. Glass Cannon Live is returning to the road. We're all packing up and driving down to Philly on July 15th. 1 week, actually less than a week now. Troy, are you ready? Less than a week.
No, that's what my weekend is.
Getting ready.
Like Matthew is small, Grant is big, Skid's old. I got this.
He'll figure it out. He'll figure it out. July 15th, Thursday night, we're going to Underground Arts in Philly, and then we head to Washington, D.C. on Saturday, the 17th, for at the Miracle Theater for a second show within 72 hours. So very excited for that.
Yo, dude, your city has got to step it the F up, or we're never coming back.
Maybe you shouldn't have treated my city so poorly when you were there last time.
Oh, can your city not handle the pain? They have sports teams they have to deal with. They can deal with me. Anyone that roots for Ben Simmons can handle a little Troy insult. So there are still 55 tickets left. I want to see those all gone. I don't care if it's all O'Brien's out there. Let's get them sold. I want to sell that out. Because D.C., we've already got over 300 people in the house for D.C. It's going to be a wild show.
That is an exaggeration and untrue.
Philly is limping to the barn. No, we have over 300 people coming to D.C.
You're lying.
No.
You're lying to everyone.
I've got the ticket counts in front of me.
Nobody in Philadelphia roots for Ben Simmons. All right, let's get into what is happening here today and what is going to transpire on this FOD. This won't be a traditional FOD in the sense that we're not going to go behind the scenes of every show of the last week. We're going to go into a whole season of one show, Get in the Trunk. If you haven't listened to season 2, you probably don't want to listen to this or watch this. Take a break this week. Come back to it after you've had a chance to catch up. You might not even know what Get in the Trunk is if you're a fan of the Glass Cannon podcast or Androids and Aliens. It is a Patreon show. So if you go over to our Patreon, you can find out more about all the hundreds of hours of exclusive shows we have on there for you to check out. All different games, too. This one is a Cthulhian mystery-style game set in modern times called Delta Green, and we have such a blast playing it. It's only $5 a month. If you join in, you can get the audio. It's an audio show. You'll get the audio of this, for example, and like I said, tons of other exclusive content to check out, including skid GMing. So head over to our Patreon and check it out for more. But this is going to be a spoiler-ridden Cannon Fodder, so make sure that if you don't want getting the trick spoiled for you, don't listen. Let's start from the top. Let's start from the very, very beginning, the preseason, before the season even started. We knew we finished season 1 of Delta Green, and we knew that we were going to bring it back because we were having too much fun. But to be honest, at the start of it, I didn't even know who was coming back in terms of, well, the players partially, but also the characters. I went around to all the players. I said, does anybody want to take a break from Delta Green? And it was just unanimous no. Everybody wanted in for the next season of Delta Green. We rebranded Get in the Trunk, and then we start putting together a cast. We add Sydney, which was a huge addition, something I was very excited about. But then it was like, who are the characters? So Troy, let me kick it to you first. Was there ever even an instant of doubt that you were bringing Roger Comstone back in this 10 years later setting?
Well, before you told me what the situation was, I just assumed I was, because your initial sort of explanation of it to me was like it was going to be totally different and loosely connected. But then you sent me an email maybe a month or so before we started, and you were like, so here's the deal. I'm going to like leave it up to you guys if you want to bring your character back 10 years later or if you want to bring a new character. So I had already planned on bringing a new character. And then once you said that, I was like, well, we got to have Comstone. It was a no-brainer for me to bring him back.
I have to agree. Grant, what about Cody? Was it Cody? Corey? Cody?
Colby.
Colby. Colby? Colby.
Colby?
Colby was Grant's season 1 character that only had a couple episodes at the end, but then you decide not to bring him back. Why?
I wanted to play around with this startup tech bro. I wish I brought Colby back, though. I think that would have been really fun, particularly after having the conversation with Jordy at the end. He certainly would have been a little bit sprier than Roger, although Roger showed how athletic and great he was throughout the campaign, even though he missed a couple crucial shots. Yeah. It would have been nice to have him kind of have this redemption arc. And by the way, my background, I call it watermelon sugar. It's Harry Styles inspired today. I was interrupted earlier. And Matthew's not here, by the way, because he was killed for heresy. You would have seen it on the recent Wrath and Glory stream.
Yes.
Anyway,
you would have seen it.
But yeah, I wish I brought back Colby. Sometimes, but I like a lot of the stuff I was able to get into with Caesar, particularly some of the things around his relationship to his father, which you saw at the end. And
which we will talk about more later. Skid, did you agonize at all over the decision to bring Jordy back, or was that a no-brainer?
No, I did have a sort of the seed of an idea for another character, but I really, really like Jordy, and I had the idea about seeing him deteriorating over that 10-year period, physically and mentally. So that was exciting to me. So at that point I was like, yeah, he's got to come back.
Yeah, and it was such a cool way to start it off, where you can really see how it's taking its toll on him over 10 years. But at the end of the day, we needed fresh blood. We needed an injection of some quality play in this game. And so we bring in the one and only Sydney Emanuel, who is thankfully joining us today from prison, I'm guessing it is. Is that like a plexiglass prison that
yeah,
they're allowing you to do podcasts once a day?
What they don't tell you is once you play Delta Green, the game becomes real life. So yes, I can't say anything. I can't talk about it. I'm in a room.
Sydney, you're going to get a vanity license plate order for Troy that says Comstone on the back of it today. So just be careful when you handle that one.
I will drive.
Excelsior on it.
I will absolutely whip my smart car around with a license plate that says Comstone. Are you kidding me?
Ass man. I'll give him ass man.
No, thank you, Joe. The quality, telling me I'm a quality player is a very high compliment. So thank you.
Yeah, and also somebody who had a lot of DG under her belt. Sorry, that's short for Delta Green for us in the know. You had played some Delta Green before you even came over and played with us. I'm assuming you had experienced a few different characters in Delta Green that we don't know anything about before you end up with Magdalena. So what exactly are you exploring with Magdalena?
Yeah, I definitely experienced a few characters. I had all my characters die in every Delta Green mission I did. So I think it was good practice before playing with you guys. But yeah, once I knew that like Comstone and Jordy were coming back, I was really excited because I knew those characters solidly from the first season, which I loved. So I was like, okay, well, I want to do a character that wasn't in the first season. So I went with like the techie kind of thing, and which was it ended up being kind of complicated for Delta Green because unless you're doing a solely computers type mission, you can be completely useless, which I felt at times Magdalena was. But I thought it was really cool the way that like Caesar and Magdalena could bounce off each other, and then also the just the harsh differences, like Geordi not under like no connection with like tech with him. And then Cumstone just being Cumstone was great to play off of as well. But yeah, I think I was just exploring like a different class almost, which is always fun to do in a tabletop RPG.
Well, you guys bring these characters to this new operation. You have no idea what you're getting into when we start, and as Troy said before we went live, he remembers nothing about this entire season of Get in the Trunk. And so let's walk through it a little bit and talk about what went down. Before we do, though, I want to do a huge shout out and a thank you to Matt Jones, friend of the show, who was instrumental not only in making a lot of the fantastic visual aids that you guys saw throughout the season. He's a Photoshop wizard for Delta Green, but he is also a fantastic handler in and of himself. And he and I had several hours of conversations over the course of the season about the inner workings of Delta Green and how it would play out in this situation. And so, yeah, I have to thank Matt so much. He's in chat. He's Taffy Saint in chat. I think I saw him earlier. What's up, Matt? Thanks for being here today. We really appreciated your help.
Also, good guy.
Yes. Okay, so you're originally brought into the FBI to look into this investigation of these murders up in Long Island that are very suspicious, obviously, and that the local police seem to they don't have a clue yet. In the original operation, the way that it's written, there are 3 murders, and you go up after the 3rd murder to start looking into this whole thing. However, I rewrote it to have it be 2 murders and have the 3rd murder happen while you're there, because I just wanted to have a crime scene episode. I just wanted you to be able to go to a crime scene. In the actual operation, all you do is go to town and then just research. You just like go over their old files and then go over and start talking to witnesses and stuff. So let me throw it out to you guys. Do you think that it would have been better or faster to just like get all the evidence at once and start piecing through it? Or do you like a crime scene in Delta Green? What would you guys prefer? I'll throw it to Skid first.
I mean, I like this is something we don't really do normally, is that kind of modern anything, but like investigation like that. I like that idea of piecing clues together, just acting like cops, like trying to figure out like how a police officer would do something, a law enforcement. I think that's fun for me. But
yeah, I mean, I want to see how you guys handle yourselves in an investigation. It's kind of funny to me how in the zone Matthew seemed. He seems to really really enjoy it, and he's talking about putting on the gloves and all that kind of stuff. Do you ever find it?
It's like fucking with the formula too. Like once we're into it, it's like making jokes about it. It's like, and then I pour a whole bunch of Crystal Pepsi all over the crime scene. Just anything like that we don't normally get to do, causing chaos is fun.
Agreed. What did you after that first crime scene? There's there's a lot of suspicions going around about, what this creature may be. Magdalena's looking into the cameras about, there's a little buzz of electricity goes out. Grant, do you remember at that time what you're thinking? I mean, you're usually really good with predicting this kind of stuff, partially because you read the operations in advance, but partially because I think you have a good mind for criminal activity. And I'm curious where your head was at the time of the crime scene, if you were starting to get a bead on what this creature might be.
Well, I only read the adventure in advance as part of admission to the Delta Green Handlers Association. I'll pull my license out in a little bit. It's in this drawer behind me. But yeah, I mean, I think the biggest clues we had pretty early on were that the bodies were elevated. And so I thought whatever it was could be flying and was probably not human. I think that was a pretty common assumption by a lot of us, though. But what I did like in terms of the big difference, the big shift from our first scenario we ran was just the nature of the monster. I didn't know if every type of person that came into contact with this kind of Lovecraftian Cthulhian horror was just going to turn into like a weird human. So there were a lot of new, fresh elements to work with here that were fun throughout the investigation.
Sydney?
Yeah, agreed. I think it was, I don't know. I think when you play the game, you don't try to metagame, but you're constantly like, is this a red herring? Is this a red herring? Like, what is Joe doing? So I too was like, okay, it's wings. And then immediately you go into, okay, well, what monsters do I know? Vampire, like flying, whatever. But I think the crime scene, going back to the crime scene too, was really fun because we got to be detectives. And it really was like, well, here's all the clues that you have. Now piece it together and figure it out. And like going to what was her name? Not Amber. The girl's room and like seeing the broken in French doors and finding her diary, like all that stuff, finding her phone. That was just really, really cool to me and a lot of fun to try to figure out, like, is it human? Is it not human? So yeah, I agree with Grant.
Troy, you seem to be of a mind that that the way that these operations work is, you do these investigations, you find out what the creature is, and then you go and fight it. Did you expect to see the creature pretty quickly, or did the idea that this, you go to this kid's house and there's an amulet and stuff like that, did that come as a surprise to you? Or did you think you'd just be hunting the creature?
Game? I didn't know that was my view of this game. But
you said it during the season.
Oh, I don't remember what I said. But yeah, no, I like that you saved that third one. Like, I could see it coming. Like, I knew there was another murder coming, but that's a comfortable narrative device that, like, I enjoy. So I like starting with the crime scene, trying to piece things together, and then getting a fresh scene to look at. I think that's much more cinematic, and I think that was a good choice. For me, like, I don't know, the way I play is sometimes I feel like I might know the answer, but I think it's more interesting to play the story in a different way. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to just steamroll right to the answer. Not because I want this to be a 14, 15 episode season, but because I think there's more story that we can tell together collaboratively. And I think if this was a TV show, if this was a movie, we wouldn't just go right to the bad guy, even if you knew it. So like when we got that amulet, like from the kid, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, there's a way you can just be like, well, let's just destroy the amulet, let's take down the kid, let's end this adventure. But I'm like, there's more story here to be told. Let's play it out the way a TV writer would.
And Troy, I don't want to put any words in your mouth, but I think this is kind of how a lot of us see how like Pathfinder is played at cons, right? People just want to get to the end of the scenario. Buff, 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 don't talk, look for the most common, shortest route from A to B, get there, defeat the thing. Whereas when we're playing, particularly in Delta Green, where all this weird real world stuff we can relate to really quickly and make up on the fly, it's a lot more fun to explore that way, right?
It's also like, I think there's this common belief that like the goal of a game, a role-playing game, is to win it. Whether it be a single encounter, whether it be like a puzzle, like just win it as fast as possible sometimes. But for our medium as storytellers and as content producers, just winning it isn't fun. And it doesn't mean you're purposely withholding yourself from finding the truth, but it's like, how do we get from A to B the most exciting and entertaining way possible? And sometimes that means suspending a little bit of disbelief and going yes-anding a little bit more to try and tell a better story together for an audience. Would we play it the same way as a home game? We probably would, because we're used to playing this way now more than we are playing the sort of video game mentality. Beat the boss, move on to the next level.
But also, I feel like...
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Skid.
Well, I was just going to say that for winning is less important. The most important thing, I think, from the way we approach things, is to be true to the character, like whoever they are. That is what makes our story move. That's what makes it work. That's what I think we have to focus on.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I feel like with a module like Delta Green, which is why I love Delta Green so much, is that it's really hard to just get to the end, to just win. Because, like, sure, we could have figured, the amulet, probably if we destroy it. But what if we destroyed it and the monster, the demon came out and then killed 3 of us. Like that can just happen.
Yeah.
You know, Delta Green is like that. So you really do, you're much more careful.
Yeah.
This gives me a question for Joe, speaking of not knowing where the end of things are. And I hate to throw a wrench in your plan, Joe, but I'm gonna do it. You alter and enhance scenarios to the point of like having this ideal principle of what you'd like to play out there. So I'm wondering, with all the different sides, like, did you ever add additional uncertainty into the scenario that wasn't there to begin with to keep us more off of our feet than most people would go with? Because I found it, particularly in this one, super hard to get a read on anyone and know who to side with until like the very end. And
Yeah,
I'm just
I mean,
wondering if that was in the scenario initially or if you juiced that up.
Well, you're probably talking about the other team coming in. And so, yeah, that is, you know, I think the way this one starts out is very much so your classic sort of Delta Green scenario. There's some murders. It looks like there's something supernatural about it. You're going to kind of investigate until you find out what it is and then cleanse that thing. But then you enter this element of complication. Now, this is in the operation and it isn't all at the same time. It's sort of the way that it's played out in the operation is the operation can literally be played in a night if they track the evidence to Thomas and get the amulet and destroy it. It's over. It's literally over. The other team is another Delta Green team that are, you know, your allies. They just sort of have a slightly different objective in mind for how to handle the situation. They're from an organization called the Coral Nomad team, which are people that are specifically designed to go out and get high technology and stuff that could be studied and researched further. That is in there, and it's in there as an optional thing. But when I did,
Majestic 12?
What's that?
Are they with Majestic, the Majestic program?
They are sort of an evolution of Majestic because Majestic doesn't exist anymore as of 2019. Okay. It's sort of gone by the early 2000s, I believe.
Right.
So Majestic 12 is I'm not going to go too far into it because we could cover this at any time, but it's a different organization that handles things differently than Delta Green, and in a lot of ways is considered to be villainous in some of their pursuits. And Delta Green pretty much snuffs them out in the early 2000s. But then this is like a reincarnation of like Delta Green and the remnants of Majestic 12 working together with some oversight, with some like congressional oversight. So what I decided to do was, in the operation as written, Carson is Delta Green, the program, as they call it. And what I decided to do was make him an outlaw instead of in the program. Mm-hmm. And as an outlaw, so this goes back to the schism, which you guys rolled on and failed on. And so like you never got any really great details about the schism. But what it comes down to is that at a certain point during the fall of Delta Green really got a bad rap with the government, and the government shut it down. And then the Outlaws, quote unquote, were operators that continued doing the missions of Delta Green, but unsanctioned and without government support. And they would have to do it in disguise and stuff like that. Well, then the program, as they now call it, capital P, the program, which is proper government Delta Green, gets resurrected in the 90s, early 2000s, right around there, and starts operating again. But the Outlaws are still out there, and they're not enemies. They're just basically, they have ideological differences. Mm-hmm. The Outlaws don't really trust the government oversight, and the government oversight thinks that the Outlaws they operate with no real rule of law at all. And so how can they be trusted to properly to do things the right way? And so what I did was I made Carson an outlaw and made you guys outlaws without knowing it, which is a big part of Delta Green play. It's like the characters don't really ever really know who they're working for. And so the idea out of the gate was that Roger and Geordi were both, after the operation 10 years ago, written off from Delta Green. They were retired. Delta Green was never going to use them for an operation again because they were too broken. And this guy, Carson, desperate to get some people in to go after this thing, with his dwindling outlaw operation, was like, oh, I'll pull up some of these old veterans who they say are all washed up, but who I think still have some mileage left on them, and I'll bring them in, and I'll just make them think it's Delta Green, and they wouldn't know the difference. Now, the surprise, of course, being that Carson is FBI. Like, not a whole lot of outlaws are actively part of the government. He's sort of part of the government and secretly an outlaw. So he brings you in and sends you out on this thing, and you don't know who you're working for. So yes, Grant, to answer your question, I did make it even more complicated. But really what I was trying to do was give you a choice. And when it came to that choice, it was the choice between capturing for study or destroying completely, which, it's a classic choice in screens, writing, and film and stuff like that. And I just wanted to give you guys as players that choice. And you really seem to agonize over it. Some of you, Magdalena took a really hard stance against this other team, very clearly and with no apologies. Why was that, Sid? Why do you think she was so like, fuck you to this other team?
I don't know. It all started at the autopsy with the CDC dudes, and I never got a good vibe. And then we completely forgot to follow up on that. So I think as a player, I felt stupid. Like, I was like, okay, I fucked up by not having Magdalena remember to do that or remember to read the report, which we found out later. So many things, so many things. But I think because they were with like these CDC dudes who we knew weren't the CDC dude, I just felt very much like they must be bad. Like in a film, I always think cinematically too, but I was like, in a film, this is the moment where they follow us in their car and they were the bad guys the whole time. So it was there that I put my foot down. And I think I felt bad when Matthew, like everyone was deliberating. I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have been so hard on my stance. But you know what? I stick by it.
Yeah, good for you. Skid, Jordy seemed really intent on trusting Carson. He kept reiterating, like, the only person we can trust is our handler. Why do you think that was? Where do you think that came from?
I think Jordy, I can't remember if we ever settled on that, but I thought that like he had at least some kind of notion about there being multiple parties at play and there's some deception within Delta Green. Some sort of inkling of an idea about the fracturing of the organization, and that there are people with different agendas that might pretend to be someone they're not. Just from, I think, and it's also just a result of his natural paranoia after living the life that he's led and experiencing the things that he's experienced at the tail end of his life. That you sort of have to pick who to trust, and that was he was like, you're never 100% sure, but like he just has to pick someone and hold on to it like an anchor, or else he could go insane and just lose all concept of reality. So it was just kind of like grasping at some kind of root in reality for him.
What about Roger, Troy? He seemed to go back and forth, be a little unsure. Where do you think his allegiances lied through this whole thing?
Well, I think you did a really good job of making it hard to figure out which side was the right side. And so I, as a player, truly didn't know, and I agonized over it. And so I was just trying to channel that through Roger, because Roger also just didn't want to, he wanted to get out altogether, but his dream of moving to an island and kind of escaping it just made it worse for him. He realized that after his bout of what happened in Keene, that it made it even, the claws had dug in even deeper into him. So there was no running away from it. And so given an opportunity to come back, I think he felt that like only by facing this again would he know where he really stood. And you know, seeing how competent he was, jokes and comedy aside, throughout the whole mission, until it came down to the monster. I don't know. You can interpret it any way you want, but to me, that's just such an interesting character arc that, like, the dice control as much as I do. But like, I still don't know. And you could tell me like, well, they're this, and then he was the outlaw, but I still don't know what was the ultimate right choice, you know, from the Delta Green that he signed up for and the way it's evolved to right in that moment. I as a player don't know.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I really liked about it, and why I was really excited to dig into it in the season, and why at times I felt, I was like, this is feeling a little tedious, and the players are feeling a little lost, and that was kind of a bummer. But like I also felt like I didn't know, which is why I liked it so much when I was preparing it and writing it. I was like, there is no right choice. There is no wrong choice. There's truly not good people in a moral sense. There is truly intelligent, reasonable objectives on both sides of these missions, and it's sort of how you approach it. One approach that is mentioned loosely in the operation that jumped out to me is like, oh well, this is the perfect solution is if you truly want to destroy the creature, you just work with the other team. You just say like, all right, yeah, we'll give you all the information. Let's work together and destroy this thing. You've got a whole team of armed men that'll protect us and protect me. Let's just do it. And then when they summon it or whatever happens, you do your best to undermine it in the last instant and destroy the thing. So it is very possible to work with them, quote unquote, only so far, and then take it in the way that you want to take it. But it is very intimidating to stand across from all those guns and just say no and walk away. I was proud of you guys for doing that. Oh, that brought up another interesting thing, which was the rigged grenade in the trunk, which was huge. So
the Rottweiler.
Oh my God.
The rigged grenade in the trunk. Let me take you through what's going on in my head for a second. So, first of all, the grenade is a dud. Always was. We made it up. It's not in the book because none of the Outlaw stuff is in the book. And Outlaws generally don't operate the way the program does, with like where you're able to requisition like good high-end stuff. They just send you to a random address with a Winnebago filled with random shit that they don't even know what's in there. That's how the Outlaw games usually work. And so you go in there, you find a couple grenades, like great, but they were duds. And it was just like, let them pull this out at the moment where it's going to save a life, and it just doesn't work. And you could see it as being a horrific and amazing story moment. So I didn't want to just change it to live because you had done a cool thing, but I was teetering on it. The thing that really pushed it over the edge, to be honest, is that while I created Eileen Parker and her whole involvement in this story, the other woman, Rebecca Thornhill, not only did I not create, but she's one of the largest NPCs in the world of Delta Green. She's like a high up in Coral Nomad in this research operation. She's a physicist, like a very high level physicist, and she's in the handler's guide and everything. It has a whole profile, and I didn't want to just like kill her in a parking lot like right out of the gate, because it's like you feel now if you guys started shooting and she died, like that's totally fine. But if it was like this sort of random thing where I changed my original story in order to make it happen, it seemed a little wild, because like she's supposed to be like a puppeteer in a way, and having her in that parking lot was probably bad on my part, but like I just thought that it would be cool to have somebody of that bearing to just come and say like, I've got all these armed men with me, and all I'm trying to say is let's work together,
like letting your party murder Elminster in the Forgotten Realms or something.
Right. That's exactly how it felt. And Matt Jones said something similar, like while we were preparing it, he was like, he sent like an email hours after a conversation. It was just like, I just wanted to point out that Rebecca Thornhill is actually a pretty major player in the overarching story of Delta Green over several years. I don't know if you just want to like put her in front of Roger Comstone with a gun. Once you decide to go to Peru, though, in some ways it's actually too late with the way that the other team was running. And one of the reasons for that is something that surprised me as a handler, which is I'm surprised that you were not more interested in the other amulet. Is there any way you can speak to why, like from finding out several episodes before that there was another one in this museum, why you were just kind of like, let's say it's all the way down in Peru? Like what was kind of the thinking behind that?
I think that's because we were deciding what to do with the first amulet we found.
Mm-hmm.
We had such a limbo of what to do with it, whether to leverage it, whether it was the only thing keeping us alive in this moment. and we weren't sure what would happen if both the amulets were united with each other. If it's a gatekeeper keymaster thing from Ghostbusters, and then Stay Puft Marshmallow Man's in the middle of Long Island. So
it's New York.
No one steps on a church in my town. I think figuring that out was difficult. I think we were all really interested in it. And I think we were also not quite sure whether or not the bounds of the scenario went to Peru. So just by saying, like, we want to go to Peru, I think part of it was also like, oh, crap, what if Joe doesn't have this ready? What if we have to wait another 8 hours for him to research, like, Machu Picchu and whatever else?
You never have to worry about that, Grant. I'm always ready.
That's true.
No, yeah, I get you. I just, I would love to, and this is just speaking to myself as a player, I would really love to try to not play that way, to try to not play within the bounds of the scenario. It's not that I want to give my handler a hard time, but I don't want to get bound in like that in the way that I think about it as I prepare to play for the first time in season 3. I want to try to think of everything and then, let it lead to a dead end, you know what I mean? By moving in that direction before I tell myself not to even bring it up. The reason for the other amulet and the Peruvian stuff, which is not in the adventure, is that I felt that it could be too fast. You could just get it and destroy it, and there's no way it would be a 10-episode season. So I was like, all right, I have to have another element here. But then it really took long once the other team got in there. And I think what surprised me the most was how you guys were really convinced that they were trying to kill you. And I totally see why now. But from my perspective, I didn't see it as like they're going to kill you if you give over the amulet. I was putting all those guns in there, sniper rifles, a bunch of armed men at the parking lot, so that you didn't just try to kill these people, like right away without, talking out your options. But instead, it came across like they were thugs that were gonna take you out if you didn't do this. And so I don't know, a little bit my bad there. I mean, the armed men are in it. Like they are, Rebecca Thornhill travels with a dozen armed men. Like that's basically in there. I didn't make that up, but I thought that, I hoped it wouldn't be too threatening. I didn't want to start a fight with them. I just wanted to prevent a fight with them, if that makes sense. And I think Roger took it that way. Troy was very like, he was sizing it all up. He was like, yeah, I could maybe take out her and maybe one of them, but then they're going to get me. Like I've got time to maybe take 2 out before they get me. So that means that we have to fast forward through the end a little bit. I think that there is a world. And so Matt Jones and I originally had preparations for a museum heist in Peru. That was like sort of the whole thing. It was like you had to beat the other team to get that amulet out of the museum. But at that point, if we started that on like episode 13, 14, like it would go another 4 or 5 episodes because it could be so fun to plan a heist. And then I was just kind of like, you know what? Instead of like jamming it in there or making it go fast, let's just leave it for another time. We could always do a heist some other time. I thought a heist would be fun. We could do a heist some other time.
Love it.
Yes, please. Keep that in mind for the future. Yeah. That sounds great.
Yeah. Especially, I was picturing Magdalena outside, Hacky turning off all the cameras, Roger inside, moving in the shadows.
Mission Impossible stuff.
Yes, it would be totally Mission Impossible. I thought it could be really, really fun. And in that situation, you could truly finish the whole thing and never face the creature if you just destroy down the line. But instead you do. In the climactic final moments, you face this creature. I had to fast forward a little bit to it, but I thought it was really fun. I just wanted to have an action-packed last 2 episodes where it's just a flat-out gunfight, really. And I love everything that you guys did. The way that you approached it, the way that you sort of allowed me to move you quickly into Peru and to the site, because I was like, we don't have time to start investigating, like, where are they? Let's ask around Cuzco. Like, it would take way too long. So I just got you there, and then your approach was great. Roger with the sniper rifle with Eileen Parker stumbling down the hill. I could picture it in my head, and then Magdalena comes out with the butt of the rifle and knocks her out. What were you thinking in that moment, Sid? Did you think that she was going to attack you or that she was going to go crazy on you or something? Why did you want to knock her out?
Two thoughts. One, I thought maybe she was possessed. We weren't sure how the amulet worked. We were like, the asleep thing, what happens? Do they attack? Is it just the monster? So that was my very first thought. Two, not to be mean, but Roger missed the shot. So
He did. I like the way it tied in though to when he's up on the trail or whatever the hell it was, and Magdalena is trying to talk the kid out of the amulet. Like, I just love that. Like, he was considering taking the shot there, and the way it just kind of, it's like a narrative arc for him to like take that shot and then miss.
Yeah.
So true. Also, Troy, that was the funniest bit, was us on our like little comms, and you were like, "I'm going to take the shot," and I was like, "Do not take the shot."
Yeah. You're like, I can kill you. I shoot you right now. And then, what was there were two bullets? Yeah.
Kill you with one. I only got 2 bullets. Kill you and put the other one on your grave.
Put the other one on your tombstone.
I'll leave the other one on your tombstone.
Yeah, I remember my dad talking to me after that episode aired, being like, the bullet on the tombstone, just cracking up. I think he's here today, by the way. Hi, Dad. He's a,
Oh, hey.
Oh, that's awesome. What's up,
as
Big
I
Joe?
mentioned on the show, big Magdalena fan. I do think Magdalena was so awesome in that well, you know what? Let me go back for a second, because that scene was amazing. It was one of my favorite moments of the whole season, was when the negotiation with him broke down and Caesar comes screeching in with the van and Roger hops out, mugs him, takes the amulet. You guys peel out. I mean, can't you just see every moment of it so clearly?
Oh my God.
God,
We
I still
ditched
think
the
we should have.
van.
I still think we should have really made a scene, taking the hubcaps and rub semen all over it.
I'm still not sure if it happened or not.
It could have happened. I also forgot about the whole thing about the negotiators saying, "Okay, we need 4 vans. One needs to be stolen." Like,
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
You know what? Make it 4 vans. Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys are all doing this, and in the back of my head, I'm thinking, he can't requisition any of this. He's an outlaw. Like, he's got no access to do any of this. And you kept adding vehicles. And it was so funny. And I wished I could have like added another layer of why it was so funny. Here's a question. I thought that this was pretty obvious, and I was like, why don't you just do this? But of course, that's any GM is going to feel that way about it. An instance with the players. Why not? Why do all the extra stuff with that moment? The speaking in a foreign language and trying to hide the truck and all this stuff. Why not just mug them and go and just like drive out of town? What was the thinking there?
gotta cover our tracks.
Yeah.
It's also a lot funnier.
Did we?
Yeah.
Did we
Oh
cover
my
our
God,
track?
so much funnier. So much funnier. Yeah, I guess that there was just something about, because as you did it, I was thinking, you know what? Oh, I know. Why have Sydney talk to him on the street at all? That's what it was.
Oh, it's
Why
a
did-
terrible
why-
idea.
Yeah,
but
why did
she was
why
excited
didn't you
about
just
it?
why didn't you just mug him? Like it,
Oh.
I never thought of that option. Lure him to a dark dock, come up in masks, beat him
Kill
up,
him.
take it. You don't even have to
Kill
kill him, and then just
Here's the
leave,
thing.
and you're fine. You're
Here's the
Scott.
thing.
You don't
I
have
thought
to
it.
kill him.
Yeah, I thought
Right.
it was a
You would
horrible
anyway.
idea. Horrible idea.
It was a
But
terrible idea.
You were excited about it. But
Well,
go.
here's the thing. Like Skid said before, and Grant said, like, playing true to character is what makes the game so fun, and the stakes are so high. And my character's backstory, I'm not going to give a ton away, but in a previous mission was dealing with kids. And it was like a fucked up thing. And she very much was like, this has to be on the up and up. Like, we have to not beat up a child, like mug a child, you know? And she was like, I can just talk to him. Like, I can get through to these kids.
Yeah.
And she didn't. And it was a terrible idea. You're right, Troy.
Yeah, you know how you don't get through to kids by going, I'm an adult. You have to do what I say. I remember that line
Grandfather's
specifically.
jewelry.
No, I loved that character arc with Magdalena mirrored Roger missing the shots all the time. We kept on putting Magdalena in front of kids, whether it was at the school or on the dock, and we thought she'd be able to communicate with them, partially because in real life Sydney's younger than all of us, and we think
Right.
she knows all the kid lingo,
Right.
the Gen Zs,
Right.
and she just failed
Show him a couple of
miserably.
TikToks or what have you, and
That's why she's in prison right now.
Yeah.
I almost.
A coder, a like hideaway recluse coder. And you were like, you know, kids, right? You're in your 20s. You know that.
Send
hip
her in.
stuff.
Shove her in
was-
front of some kids to do her thing.
I was this close to killing the kid. I mean, I think I was, because they don't see this on video, and I'm the whole time I'm mimicking the shot, and I'm like, I was getting really into it. I'm like, should I shoot him? Should I take the kid out? I almost shot him. Imagine just boom, blow out the back of the kid. Grab the amulet.
So I was speaking with one of the creators of the game about helping us out with the giveaways and stuff. They gave away some great stuff during the season, and I mentioned preseason months before we started that we were going to do a Victim of the Art, and I've been dying to tell you guys this but I couldn't before. But he was like, "Oh man, Victim of the Art, that one has a chance to get a little dark." He's like, "When I ran it, they took the kid's entire family out into the woods and executed the entire family, thinking that they were like that was why these deaths were happening. They buried their bodies in the woods."
So we weren't very off with the Pine Barrens. We just didn't use the Pine Barrens correctly. We could have done that.
I couldn't say the term Pine Barrens anymore. That's what it was there for you to start burying bodies.
Man, that dad almost got it too.
Yeah.
I still don't know if he wasn't involved in some way. Tell us now.
Here's a fun one. This is a fun fact that you never actually found out. I don't know if you ever even suspected, but you never actually found out. One of the twists that I had in there, should it ever get drawn out actively, was that Agent Thomas, the other police officer who had a funky vibe with you the whole time, is a Delta Green friendly and was working with the program and gave them the information for like that about, that's why they were onto it and were there when all this stuff was going down. And he thought you were actually FBI. He didn't know that you're Outlaw Delta Green. He thought you were actually FBI, and he wanted you out of there like as soon as possible and nothing to do with it. He's not a member of Delta Green, the program. He doesn't know really what they do, but he's a friendly. He'll pass information. Yeah, exactly.
Roger had him pegged the second we walked in there. I don't like the way Joe described that moment.
Yeah, I don't like that guy. I like that guy.
That's good. It takes one sentence to just be like, okay, that might be something, it might be nothing.
Right? Yeah. I have another question, and this one comes from my dad. He wanted to know why, and this particularly goes to you, Sydney. I'll put the blame on you mostly, and then it can trickle off to everybody else. He wanted to know, he was shocked listening to the show that there wasn't more alarm and digging into who was at the police station from the museum asking about the amulet, and then they were making it an art heist thing. She said that yesterday a group of people were in here from the Museum of Natural History asking about the blah, blah, blah. Of course, it's program people like in disguise and saying they're from the museum. But you guys never asked further of the detectives about it. Do you remember that, or did it just sort of like pass by too fast, too much going on?
Yeah, I think it was in that same time period where I was being questioned about the mugging, and I had to like save face.
That's exactly when it was, yeah.
And I think I did exactly what you said. I wrote it off as like, okay, it's that other agent, you know, the CDC people, whatever, they dressed up in another costume and they came in and said they were with the museum. So I thought it was still them just trying to get more information or try to put the blame on us somehow to get us out of the picture. But no, I, again, should have read the file. Should have asked about the museum.
Yeah, well, I mean, you were right. Like, your instinct was right. Maybe you didn't even have to ask a lot of questions about it because your instinct was right. But if you are right about that, it should trigger a pretty big red flag, which is like they're onto the amulet. Who has the amulet? Which is like Thomas and family, and that'll lead them pretty quickly to where they need to go to find out about this shit. And if they go to the museum, it's going to lead them to the other amulet. You know what I mean? So
the museum heist, and I think I just completely went the other way because I was like, yeah, whatever. We know who that is. No museum heist today.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. But somebody else said it in chat, Silverstone for the win. I was screaming at my headphones the exact same thing. It's like, why were they there? What were they doing there? But yeah, you knew why they were there. It's just a matter of digging a little bit deeper to realize the implications of that. All right, let's do a few more around the horn final questions. And then I'm just going to turn over to the audience for a few minutes. Troy.
Yeah.
Let's go to the epilogue. What is going on with Roger sending a piece of this artifact to his son, this dangerous artifact? What's the thinking here? What's going on?
Well, I don't know. Sometimes I just do stuff and then I figure it out later. I had all these thoughts about, like, if we never went to Peru, my epilogue was going to be Roger sitting on a beach in Peru, kind of mirroring the beginning of him being in Rincon, Puerto Rico. I had visions of that. I had visions of, like, if Roger died, we still see him on that beach, and it's unclear what happened. Did he die? Is this like his heaven? He's back on a beach in Puerto Rico or whatnot. And so when the amulet was happening, and then that whole scene with the telephone booth when I called my ex-wife, I mean, when I said, and this isn't like, oh, pat myself on the back, but like I had no plans for doing that. And then even as you and I were improving, I had no plans to even mention that he had a son. Like that just came out in the improv. And then the thing about you being remarried and stuff like that all came out of it. It just, so as that started happening, I'm like, well, now that that's a part of his story, that it happened naturally and just a fun improv, I feel like that is what has to be the epilogue. And how do you tie it together and make it super Delta Green? Give him a piece of this artifact.
I love it. I'm going to go to Sid next. Do you think Magdalena is on the run right now? Is she like laying low? FBI agents were in her office.
Yeah, you pulled that shit right at the end. I mean, that was all you. I didn't tell Joe, like, shit. You pulled that shit on me. No, I thought that was great. I mean, it makes sense. She works at like a very high profile company, Hitachi. They would come looking for her. They know her name. I don't know if she knows she's on the run. I feel like as a player, I have to now watch her back. But she's smart, though. I think Magdalena will get word from someone at work, and we'll figure things out and then lay low. So I don't know if she's necessarily on the run, but I think she might have to change career paths or go into Delta Green even further and kind of lose herself in the rabbit hole.
Yeah, we'll see. Skid, did we see the last of Geordi, do you think? Because
sure,
I mean, that ending scene was incredible. But we're just going to leave it at a question mark here, you think, for the moment?
It sure seems like that was it.
What a great ending. Geordi is my favorite characters on the entire network. And I just thought that was such a great ending. And it's such a cinematic ending because you assume he's dead. He's 100% dead, right?
You'd think.
Never know in Delta Green. Off-screen deaths, man.
Yeah.
You never know in Delta Green. Grant. What? I want to know what is going on with Augustus Bridges. What's that little scene that we see with Augustus Bridges in a helicopter over Vietnam? What are you doing? What are you cooking up?
Well, I really loved Succession as a TV series. I love the dynamic between Kendall and his father, and I really wanted Caesar to be an incompetent kind of rich boy that didn't really know what he was doing, coming from a father who inadvertently made his son so incapable in the field by being such a successful, strong person himself. I'm also just as interested in the formation of Delta Green as an entity as I am in the actual supernatural stuff we're investigating. So I wanted to set up the potential for a scene in Vietnam, which is around when I would think something like Delta Green would start. I don't know. I haven't read all the lore that far back. Not sure when it started, how it got started. But I also just love as much as we love being in kind of a contemporary time, I like being in modern times, but minus cell phones, minus computers. And a lot of it was thinking about my own dad jumping out of Huey helicopters in Vietnam and like having like starlight goggles and an M16, and that's all you had. And having to figure out how to navigate this enemy minefield, and not for what was there. I also like going back to Vietnam because, not my favorite war, but having something cool there that's kind of redeeming of it, like the supernatural thing you're trying to stop that is actually a real big threat to humanity, was an interesting thing I wanted to open up there. So there's a lot of hooks, and I was always more interested in Augustus as a character than Caesar in a lot of ways. And from reading some of the backstory, some of the things that he's involved with.
So was I. I mean, partially because of what you had sent me, but also because of how it ended there. And I didn't know about that ending scene right until the very end. And I was like, oh, this Augustus character is very interesting, which is why I adapted that scene with Rebecca Thornhill at the end very quickly and just sort of changed things around and had her talking to Augustus at this high level party with senators and stuff like that, just sort of to show how big she is in the operation. She's mingling with senators, but there's Augustus too. Is he still Delta Green? Has he been in this whole time? And why would his son be working with outlaws? If you're thinking about it in my head, the way, because I knew all that the whole time. So it's like, why is that? What's going on? And Rebecca walks up to him and says, we need to talk about Caesar. He's not, or is he a hideaway or whatever, a mole for the program in the Outlaws? It was so many potential ideas that could come out of that. All right, let's kick it over to a few questions from the chat here. Some great ones have come in, but I'm going to have Nick Lowe sing us in here for some listener mail.
It's time for listener mail.
I know, it's the worst.
Bad podcasters.
We are, Troy. We are bad podcasters. At Arabs GCP always asks wonderful questions. Ask Sydney, I loved your idea of texting from the dead girl's phone, but things went off the rails pretty quick. If you could replan that encounter, what would it look like? We already covered that, it ended up being a disaster. Is there any other anything you would do differently, Sid, in particular?
I would throw the phone out the window on the highway like we thought we were going to. Yeah, I think I would have maybe listened to Cumstone in the moment and gone with the idea of not killing the kid, but just finding a way to get the necklace with no strings attached, zero ties, and remove ourselves. Because that complicated and prolonged the mission too. We still had a lot of stuff we had to do, and then it was like going back to the police station because there was a mugging under really weird circumstances. So I don't know. But I think the phone was extremely helpful. Using the phone and cracking it open, jailbreaking it, was extremely helpful to find out her connection, the dead girl's connection to the kid. So good detecting, bad detecting.
all wrapped up at the same time. Raskataz asks, and I love this question, I forgot to cover it in the main part. Joe, what did the ritual actually do? Did they manifest anything in trying besides hurting themselves? Yeah, so the ritual is not in the operation, and we put it in that Winnebago. I say we, meaning Matt Jones and I. He was the mastermind behind this ritual, and basically you have no evidence of what it does to you, but it knocks you unconscious. It gives you memory loss, and I sort of played that out through willpower points loss. But then what it does is it's activated, and when it's activated, it has a radius. I think it's a 10 meter radius, something like that, of which any creatures of the nature of this creature or any other sort of Elder Mythos, alien-esque creatures that come within that radius lose a point of power every round that they're within the radius. Wow. So that's sort of why he was kind of screeching and stuff. It wasn't going right down. It was affecting him. But one of the big things, and this is what I got from Matt Jones, and I applaud him for it. It was painful for me, but I applaud him for it. He was adamant. He was like, you don't tell players what it does. There's no way their characters would know what's happening. It is an unnatural artifact. So they just have to you go with their gut, and you kept it on you the whole time. You activated it, kept it on you, and I knew it was going to help you. I just couldn't tell you, and it killed me not to tell you. That
was cool.
The Real 22 Plus asks, Grant, was Augustus Bridges a part of the missions of the Fall of Delta Green? I've played some of them, and they're fun. Grant, do you want to reveal anything at all?
I don't know. What was Augustus doing back then?
The Violin Con asks, Joe, several times the players kind of ran away with half-baked ideas. How would you manage that retrospectively? Would you introduce different consequences or force the person to tell you what they are actually doing, i.e. the attempted kidnapping or actual robbery of Thomas? Also, Troy is generally disruptive to any narrative. Well, that's not nice.
It's so funny. That's such a big. I don't want to steamroll your question, but like there was a big thing, and on the boards, like people just hated it. And I think it's like people. I'm just a divisive personality. You either like me or you hate me, and so that lends it. I think if Skid played Comestone the way I play it, you'd never hear a peep. But like it's a problem with fan bases in general. It's like this is the way the game has to be played, and we just disagree. Now I'm sure there's times when anyone at the table will be like, all right, Troy, that's enough. But like we're all trying to make the most entertaining game possible, not play it the way that you think the game has to be run. Like that's not how you create. Because I would never do anything differently. But I'm sure there were times that you were even frustrated with me. But then a second later, you're crying, laughing because of something that happened.
You can't have your Dairy Queen and eat it too.
Yeah,
right. Exactly.
I can pretty honestly say I don't think I was ever frustrated with you. I don't think ever. I was frustrated with the group at times. I got frustrated with, and this is just me personally, I have to get over it. Like I get frustrated when everybody does this. You're going to do the right thing, and then you slowly talk yourselves out of it, and then talk yourselves into a complete direction that's going to lengthen the entire season, and I think it's going to drag shit along, and I'm like, and I just can't come up with the best in-narrative way to get you back on a track because I don't want to railroad you. That would be frustrating to me at times, but it was never Roger related. I think the way Roger approaches things is very funny, and his overly paranoid nature is very funny, but it's something I'm learning from too, is like when I play, I want to be a little less paranoid. I want to be a little bit more like, I'm just going to go talk to the person. I'm going to say, what is your story? What's your deal? And if they kill me, they kill me, I guess. I made the wrong call. But like getting information and just rather than, I don't know. But I did like all the surveillance stuff you guys did too. That was really cool. And I hadn't thought of that. And that was really fun and interesting. Let's balance it out here with Oberon 327, who says, not a question, but a compliment for Troy. I think Comestone is easily one of the greatest characters on the entire network. Thank you for bringing him into our lives. So it cuts both ways.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like, and I'm not just playing it for those people, and I'm not trying to convince the people that don't like him to like him, but like, it is the most fun I have ever had role playing, and that says something. And if it doesn't distract you, then that's important.
I think it's great. I think it can. Anytime you kind of choose humor, it can undercut some of the horror if you're doing like a horror type thing like that. But for me, it's like I think it's worth that sacrifice because of how funny it is. Mm-hmm. I think it's still scary. It's not as scary as it could be if we played everything completely straight and Roger wasn't insane in that way. But I think it's worth it because I just get so much joy out of seeing him destroy the story. Like I love it. Like it's
yeah. He's playing a different game. I remember that quote.
Yeah.
Two things. I'll be very interested to see what happens next season because I'm here to announce that I won't be on season 3 of Get in the Trunk because I just got too much going on with Glass Cannon 2.0, the convention planning. I've got to write a Dune module. I'm getting ready for Blades in the Dark. Something had to pull back, and so I said, you know what? As much as it hurts me, I'm going to pull back on season 3 of Delta Green because Roger Comestone wasn't going to come back for this. I don't know what Grant's plans are, but I have a feeling it's not going to quite fit into that. And as excited as I am about these other inappropriate characters that I've already started to write stats for, I'm going to be sitting out. So I'll be interested to see how the tone shifts and what people think of that. And then the second thing, we put up a poll on Twitter a few weeks ago as like, if you could have a T-shirt of anyone, who would it be? And we got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of votes across the network, and Roger Comestone had 52% of the votes. So hopefully debuting in Philly next week, if they can get it done in time, I just approved the proofs today, is this shirt, which design was done by Stephen Evans, who won the call to arts for Roger Comestone on our subreddit. I reached out to him. I'm like, I got an idea. What do you got? And this is what he came up with.
My God.
Amazing summer shirt. Amazing summer shirt. Look at the crab at the top.
Yes,
the crab.
So
The crab. I love
his
it.
first draft had an eagle, and I'm like, can we change that to a crab?
Yeah.
And then he had a regular gun. I'm like, can we make that a sniper rifle?
Yeah.
Good.
Just amazing. I love how the crab is his sigil.
Yeah.
A crab on an aquamarine field. That is amazing. I had something there. Old Scratch. What's up, Old Scratch Johnson? A question for Joe. What were the elements of Victim of the Art that stood out to you when you decided to run it for the group? Yeah, I read a lot of different operations, and some of them were just too dark. Some of them were too long. This one stood out to me for two reasons. One, it was short enough that I could actually add to it and still have a season. And then also that it was Peruvian in nature. I've been to Peru. I loved being in Peru. And so I was like, immediately when I read it, I was like, I'm adding Peru. They're going to go to Peru. And that was the first decision that I made, was to add in a Peruvian thing. There is an entire page in the operation. There's no Peru you don't go to Peru in the operation. In it, there is an entire page, beautiful page of 9-point font of just Peruvian history, all pre-Columbian, of all the cultures before the Inca, brief things that are all true histories of the Peruvian cultures before the Inca. And I learned a lot, and it was really interesting. So that's what really stood out to me, and why I grabbed it, because I was like, I've been to Cusco. I could, play that up a little bit. I wish we had a little bit more time there in the end, but it is what it is. Arabs GCP. Joe, did you have a particular avenue of investigation prepped that you were hoping the gang would follow but didn't? What extra information could they have unearthed if they had? No, not really. I wasn't expecting the high school. Sort of in the module, they think you're going to go to the dentist office. The first dentist murdered. They think you're going to go to the dentist office. You go to the dentist office and you see his patient records, and the day, 2 days before he died or the day before he died, it's Thomas is on that list. And you can just go to each one of those patients if you want and ask them what was going on. That's sort of the main way. And I was talking to Matt Jones about it. I was like, what if they never go to the dentist office? What am I supposed to do? There's a million different ways they can get that information. You guys decided to go to the high school, and that's not in there. And so I just populated it with the people from my actual high school. It was just my actual head of academic affairs was the name of the guy that walked in. I remember you were like, what's the biology teacher's name? My dad was cracking up. He was like, I was just like, Mrs. Dominello, because that was my biology teacher in high school.
How the hell do you remember?
I don't remember all of them, but I remember my biology teacher. But that was a great scene, because it was Magdalena across from the girl interrogating, and you guys, and Roger's in the back smoking a cigarette in a high school in 2019. It was amazing. So and then it was so obvious to you because you went to the high school, because you asked for his absentee, and none of that is in the operation. And I was just like, well, this kid's had 2 root canals over the last month that coincide with and one of them coincides with the death of the dentist. And so I just laid out there his absences, and I was like, this could not be more obvious now. And you guys went straight to his house that day, and then it was and now now it's on. And then you broke into his room, which was also great. Moved it along so fast because you found all the stuff right away. There's a lot you can ask, what does his dad do for a living? You can ask, and you said it later. You're like, maybe we should have asked what his dad does for a living. Partially, it's a red herring because his dad actually in the module does work for, oh my God, I'm blanking on it. What's the name of the engineering firm in Long Island? Yeah, Northrop Grumman. His dad actually does work for Northrop Grumman, and I just threw that in when you guys asked the cop what she suspected. There's nothing in there about what she suspected. She's just at a complete dead end. So I said Northrop Grumman just because I thought that, it's a cool red herring. And then the fact that Thomas's father worked there was just a little detail that the operation added in that then had double effect, because it was I had said the cop mentioned that as a suspicion. So you guys pinning that all on a Northrop Grumman employee and stuff was really fun. I don't think it would hold up. I think that, I thought about that whole investigation of them digging into it, realizing this guy was never an employee there and these guys are lying and we're going to find out about this. But I was like, I don't have time to play this all out. We got to just move along. But I did have it come up in Magdalena's epilogue, where the FBI is asking around about her. So it's not totally out of the woods, but it's different. We're doing a seasonal show. Grant's doing the next one. I don't know what he wants to do. If you were doing a campaign, these things have repercussions. You know what I mean? You can get arrested in the home scenes. You can get arrested and have to face prosecution. And there's all kinds of awesome mechanics for you just roll dice to see what happens if you go to jail or not, or if you can. And if you do, you can't play that character on the next operation. You have to play somebody else.
There's someone in the chat that works for Northrop Grumman.
Get out of here.
Nobody, Nakalex. I'm sorry, I'm butchering that. Yeah, good. It's good.
You know what goes on.
He says, I now work for Northrop Grumman, and I'm always sad when they are a potential villain. Yeah, I'm just familiar with Northrop Grumman because I'm such a big Apollo geek, and that whole From the Earth to the Moon series, there's an entire episode that focuses on Northrop Grumman and those employees and the building of the ship that landed on the moon. They built it. They were the contractor that built it. So it was really neat. All right, I am going... I was just going to end it, but I have to ask D-Stack's question. Where did Joe pull his excellent performance as a teenager working at Dairy Queen from? He nailed it, and I re-listened to it several times. It's because I have a Dairy Queen right before my highway, and it is only high school kids that work there. And 1 in 8 is happy. Like 1 in 8. It's like
it's so funny. I was at that Dairy Queen when I left your daughter's birthday on Monday, and I ordered 3 blizzards, and it took the kid like 25 minutes. And I'm like, what is going on back there?
Yeah, it is. It's always kids, always teenagers. You know, they're just like, summer job. My dad makes me do this. You won't get me an Xbox. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up there because we are running long and we gotta go. But so many great questions. Sorry to the ones that we didn't get to. I hope this got you guys some good, juicy background information on the operation as a whole. And I hope you guys as players can start to get, because I think it's only fair for you to start to get some insight into like the background of Delta Green and how these operations work, because every little thing matters. When I start playing, I really want to be like conscious of writing everything down and thinking about everything that is said, because they're murder investigations. Every detail matters, and you want to, just try to zero in on the right ones. But it was really fun. So I want to thank all you guys, Sydney, Troy, Grant, and Skid for joining me. Sorry, Matthew couldn't be here. He had to be killed for heresy, as Grant said. He's just a little too busy for us today. But yeah, we're gonna release the audio of this if you got here late. So don't worry, you'll hear the whole thing if you're over there on Patreon. So thanks again, everybody, for tuning in, watching, and anybody else have any parting words about Delta Green or their characters?
I do. A couple of people figured out where the turkey and high C thing came from.
Oh yeah, what is that?
It was one of my favorite ever sketches on SNL. It was Danny Aiello. It was one of those really weird sketches that they'd shove at the back of the episode. And it's a life insurance salesman who keeps demanding high C and turkey. It's hilarious. I won't go through the whole thing now, but that's working.
That was good. Anybody else? Any last minute tidbits, or are we good?
I don't know when, I don't know how, but Cumstone will be back.
Yes! Cumstone will be back. We'll leave you with that. Goodbye, everybody. Take it easy. Have a good weekend.
Bye, everybody.